Okay, well, thank you. Well, maybe we can share the slides in some of the time that I talk. Well, thank you so much for this invitation to the due diligence, Jean-Louis, Pascal, and everyone who is here because we're working together. Even we don't meet each other, some of us. I think we are allies in this path to improve the situation of the world. There's the situation of the human rights, the situation of the environmental devastation that mostly happen in the global south, and also the climate change problem that we have as humanity together. Well, I am Eduardo Mosqueda. I am the executive director of the organization called Tsikini. Tsikini is a word that means sprout in the Purepecha language. That is an indigenous community that I am part of descendant in Michoacan. We are a project that seek to be the sprout for the buen vivir. I don't know if you have heard about this word that it's mostly in the global south that means well-being. And we are trying to be for the affected communities that suffer big impacts by huge projects on the region or territories. Through our projects, Tsikini works to share tools on law, education, and psycho-emotional, proposing participative activities that without importance or condition consider the peoples as subjects or rights, with full capacity to develop their rights. And this is important also because, for example, we share in this travel that I visit you in Luxembourg with an indigenous leader that goes and express the problems that they're facing with a big project that I will tell you in a few minutes. One of these projects that we are working on is the Manzanillo thermoelectric, the second biggest thermoelectric plant in the country that use fuel oil and gas. No access to data emissions, no measurement of the hidden externalities such as human, environmental, and climate health, without mitigation measures and fulfillment for environmental and climate laws. We seek to get energy transition, access to emissions data, and mitigate emissions, fulfillment of environmental and climate commitments, and protect the human and environmental health. Also, the protection of the biodiversity of the wetland of Cuyutlan and the Pacific Ocean in which this thermoelectric is located. And we have just like 2 weeks ago that the news that in this place will also be built the second part of the Port of Manzanillo, that is the biggest port in Mexico, and that will destroy all this wetland of Cuyutlan. Also, another project that we have is the Lake Chapala, that is the biggest lake of Mexico. The entire basin where the lake belongs is the most populated and the most industrialized in Mexico. There is not fulfillment of environmental laws that this allows everyone to pollute the basin that have a huge impact on human, environmental, and climate. As a sample of this, the children of the Cocas indigenous community that lives on the shore of the lake are suffering several health problems. A lot of them have kidney diseases, and some of them, unfortunately, are dying. We seek with them to get preventive and health care for treatment, and also the pollution and the pollution without limits that happening right now, and access to data of sources. Because there are a lot of companies who are located here who are just leaving all the pollution to the basin, and the restoration of the environment health and of the basin, and also the protection of biodiversity. And finally, another big case that we are working on, and the reason why we are visit Luxembourg the last year is because of the Ayotitlan community. That is a Nahua community that unfortunately suffer big because of a joint venture between Ternium and ArcelorMittal, who owns the biggest iron mine in Mexico, and who are based in Luxembourg. The Yotitlán indigenous communities live in one of the richest biodiversity spots, not only of Mexico, but of the world. The wealth of this land includes not only the biodiversity, the water, but also the biggest iron mine in Mexico and the biggest reserves of iron in Mexico. Besides that, they are some of the poorest of the country. They have not been consulted or have access to the benefits. They just suffer the destruction of the environment, the violence against them, forced disappearance, and murder of the peoples who are defending the human rights and environment and their community. Also, they are suffering the capture of the state and a silent zone to keep them in impunity. We seek to get measures to stop the violence. That's why we were to Luxembourg, to protect and restore the communities and the land, and to get reparations for the heavy harms that they suffer, and proper consultation and access to the benefits. We were there because in 2020, a member of the community, environmental defender of the community that worked with us, were kidnapped. Because with us, he presented a lawsuit in the Mexican judiciary. He was kidnapped, he said, by people of the company, people of the Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, that is the second most biggest cartel in Mexico, and also people of the local authorities. Right now, even police member of the local police are under jail because of the forced disappearance suffered by environmental defenders in this community. And after that, we said we cannot go on the traditional approach only with lawsuits on federal level or locally. We need to go further. And we started to ask to colleagues all around the world. And they started to answer. Peoples from Brazil, Liberia, South Africa, Spain, Italy, Kazakhstan. And we found a systematic failure that seems like more like a model. Terrible human rights violations, environmental devastations, huge contributions on climate change, corruptions, a capture of the states, violence, and the impossibility to access to justice in the global south. You can access, and Jean-Louis Pascal can share the report in which we found all this systematic failure. And after a corporate research, we saw that not only the steel companies are like the one responsibles. They have these huge coal mines. The Kazakhstan is one of the examples. Also, the Cerrejón in Colombia that is part of the supply chain. The iron mines and the steel factories that affects a lot of people in the global south and that you suffering in the last decades. Also, the supply chains includes banks, the financial system, automakers, appliance manufacturers, host states like Luxembourg and third states like Mexico, and shareholders. And just as the minister said, we found on the due diligence an opportunity to address the consequences of the social and environmental and climate injustice that will affect not only the global south, but will affect and are affecting the global north, and that we can address it together. And the silent zones and the sacrifice zones in order to finish this and the brutal consequences that we are facing right now, but we'll be seeing more deeply in the future. Some of the recommendation finally is to effective complaint mechanisms. Right now, just this year, we have a meeting with some members of the ArcelorMittal, but we lost the communications. We submit like 4 letters until now, and we don't have answers yet. Also, a real engagement to develop solutions. We lost it, as I said previously, and the violence and sacrifice and silent zones raise limitation period for bringing civil action to 10 years, because just imagine, these peoples, these communities are under a huge amount of violence. In the case that I represent, by the cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, but in Brazil are militias. In Liberia are police member of the states. So the possibility to organize that the people overcome the fear is really a great challenge. Reversals the burden of the proof in favor of the victims. There is a lot of imbalance of power on these kind of cases, and also the collective redress mechanisms for avoid lengthy and complex registration procedures. You can saw more recommendations on the report, and I'm very grateful to be here with you all. And hopefully we see you again the next year in Luxembourg, just in order to keep pushing this agenda that is an opportunity and to improve the situation. Thank you so much.